Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello and welcome to this podcast. In today's segment, we will be talking with Jason Ingalls, the founder and CEO of a leading cybersecurity firm known as Ingalls Information Security. They're based out of Woodsworth, Louisiana. Jason, thanks for your time, and let's go ahead and get started. We looked at your bio, and you seem to have a very deep and rich background in cybersecurity. Can you tell us some of the highlights of your career and how you got started in cybersecurity?
You bet. And first, let me just say that I kind of hit the lottery when it came to career choices. I've been building computers since I was about 12 and had always been an enthusiast and wound up using the knowledge I gained to self-study for certifications. Got the MCSE way back in 2000. That led me to a systems administrator job, which led to a systems engineering job for a DoD subcontractor for an Air Force project. And I worked on that Air Force project for about 9 years. And in the meantime, commercial cybersecurity sort of sprang up around us. Right around 2001, we got asked to do our first penetration test on a financial institution. And so I was able to take the knowledge I gained from cybersecurity engineering at the DoD subcontractor and apply it to try to break into a financial institution. And of course, once we'd done that, we were hooked. So we started doing a good bit of that at my employer there. That led to work with some of the other business units at General Dynamics. That's where my employment was, including the one that did TJX breach response. So you recall the TJ Maxx breach. So we got a chance to go in and actually assist on that breach. And, of course, once I saw the incident response work, it really captured my imagination and certainly realized how much I enjoyed doing it. So I was able to get some early industry breach response experience, kind of read the writing on the wall, as well as some technical testing with whitehouse.gov. Back in 2009, they launched whitehouse.gov on Drupal, which is an open source content management system. And I got to lead the security test team that basically broke that website every week for 6 months before we launched it in October of 2009. And, as I tell a lot of folks today, I knew by having my name on the documentation that got approved for the security that I was either going to have a pretty good career or a pretty short career. And I spent a very nervous weekend waiting for Twitter feeds to say that the whitehouse.gov website had been hacked. Fortunately, through the entire lifetime of that website, it never got defaced or hacked. So it's been a great career so far.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's incredible. Congratulations on that. Now, why did you start Ingalls Information Security, and what made you leave your previous jobs and start a cybersecurity company? Just the urge to be an entrepreneur, or just to kind of like help the public, or?
Yeah, well, there were a few things. First of all, I was at a point in my life where I could take that kind of risk. I was able to get out on my own without worrying about making sure that the electricity bill got paid. So that's one very important part of anybody's decision to start a business is, can you support yourself in the meantime? Secondly, I'd seen the writing on the wall with regards to incident response and how long it took for many vendors in that space to respond and actually get on site and start helping stop the bleeding and, help the client. I mean, it just took weeks, up to weeks to get engaged on something where, the biggest criteria for success is how fast can you stop it. So I realized I could build something that was small and agile and could respond a lot quicker. And today you can see that across the industry where people are engaged in hours. And for example, we can engage and deploy worldwide in hours. But that was something that just didn't exist back in 2010 when I started the company. And then finally, I had a lot of opportunities sort of presenting themselves left and right. And I realized just how big of a deal that information security was going to be in the near future, and realized that if there was ever a time to open up a store, put my shingle out, that was the time. So that's when I made the jump, and that was in summer of 2010, 8 years ago.
Okay, congratulations. Now, how long has Ingalls Security been in business?
Yeah, since the summer of 2010, so I believe August. So we're coming up. We're just over 8 years in business.
Okay. Now, does Ingalls Information have a presence in other countries as well, like overseas, like in India or Europe or Asia, anywhere around there?
We have a partner program where we have, for example, folks in Asia, South America, several different locations in Europe, where we have long-standing partnerships with people who can help us. Much of what we do today can be done remotely, and with data privacy laws of various different nations, there's also the considerations to be made about, where that data is stored, et cetera. So we partner, for example, with people in South America to create a data repository and to help perform any work that may be required so that the data stays in the country of origin. And that happens across the world. So again, we've developed those partnerships for years now. But all of our full-time employees are based in the United States.
Okay. Now, who is your typical customer that you're trying to target? Is it the small to medium-sized business, the large-scale companies like the Fortune 500, or perhaps a combination of both?
It's a combination, and that varies by business line. So we have 4 business lines. As I mentioned, we did a lot of consulting initially. We did a lot of technical testing initially. Those are 2 business lines. We've done a lot of incident response over the last 8 years. That's the third. And then finally, in the last 3 years, we've been doing a lot of monitoring and preventative type activities. So when you look at each business line, we do a lot of consulting for the Global 500. We do testing for everybody from a small community bank to a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company. We do incident response predominantly for the very large companies, although we do a lot of, lately, especially with the business email compromise issues that we've seen over the last 8 or 9 months, we've been doing a lot for small business who got sold, a cloud-based email provider that just didn't allow multi-factor authentication or it wasn't configured. So we've been seeing a lot of that. We just kind of run the gamut. We've got folks, again, very long-term relationships with folks in the Global 500 community, and then we've got people call us every day for help who are small businesses or small to mid-sized businesses.
Okay. Now let's get in your product line a little bit. What lines of business does your company offer?
Sure. Yeah, so we've got 4 lines of business. The first, as I mentioned, is consulting, where we can explain. Our job as a consultant is to understand what risk exists and communicate that risk to you so that you can communicate, you as the client, potentially, that's usually an information security officer or even an IT manager or perhaps the CISO of a company. But provide the mechanism and the information necessary to communicate risk to leadership so that they can make informed decisions. And in addition to that, we can also deploy standards-based, for example, frameworks into an environment so that you can quantify the risk that you're dealing with in cybersecurity rather than just, a green, yellow, red sort of qualitative assessment. So we deploy that for multinationals. Our consultants deploy framework for multinationals. We do risk assessments. We have an audit capability for financial institutions. And then from there, the other business line that sort of goes in hand in many engagements with consulting is our technical testing. And these are the folks who basically get paid to break into places legally with a get-out-of-jail-free card, if you like to call it, or a rules of engagement document that says these people are authorized to do it. But we break into places and then explain how we did it so that those clients of ours can fix the problems that let us break in the first place so the bad guys can't do it. And then, of course, incident response is something that we've been doing since the business was founded, and even prior to that for many of the folks that do it for us. Incident response is one of those situations where the driver is the amount of time it takes to resolve an incident and to contain and remediate attacker presence and data theft or destruction. And so we've worked on some very, very large engagements around the world. We've worked on some very small engagements for folks who, maybe a CPA firm that had an intrusion and needs to understand what kind of data was accessed or even stolen by an attacker. And then That's the incident response line. The final line of business is the managed detection response line, which is a preventative effort. In other words, we put in a layered set of cybersecurity controls into an environment, and we manage those as well as respond to incidents that need to be remediated. So the goal there is to find intrusions, because you're never going to be able to stop them all. You do what you can to stop as many as you can, but there will always be the case where an intrusion can occur. If it does, our job is to identify it as fast as possible, map the thing out rather than just stopping a piece of malware, understand how the malware landed on a computer, for example, or what user account was involved, or what computers on the internet are involved. And once you've got that mapped out, you can kill that entire attack chain and prevent any future intrusions from occurring using the same vector or the same method that you just mapped out. And if you can do that before the attacker can leverage that intrusion to cause harm to our clients, then we've done our job, and it's as if the attack never occurred. And so that's our goal, part of MDR. But that gives you a kind of a rundown of all 4 business lines.
Sounds awesome. Now, can you tell us about your application called Viewpoint? Can you describe that in more detail, please?
Yeah, you bet. So Viewpoint is comes from an idea that occurred to our then CTO, Adam Richards, back in 2012, where we were in Atlanta hunting down some bad guys in a very large computer network. And Palmer Luckey had come up with the idea of crowdsourcing a virtual reality headset called Oculus. And I'm sure many of the listeners are probably familiar with Oculus Rift, but back then this was pretty big stuff. I mean, no one had really figured out how to deliver VR hardware to the masses. Well, they figured out how to do it via crowdfunding, so they kickstarted the Oculus program. And our CTO at the time said, hey, it'd be great if we could, see packet data in 3 dimensions so that we could see more of it. Because one of the biggest problems that we have whenever you're an incident responder is just being able to understand or gain situational awareness about the environment that you're working in. And the first job you have when you get on site and you're working a breach, or even if you're remote, is to take as much data as you can and cram it into your brain so that you can get situational awareness. What does the environment look like? How many web servers are there? How many database servers are there? How many users, and how they interact? We thought that it would be better if we could present a model rather than ask people with varying degrees of technical capability to interpret data as you read it and try to, put this model together in your head. It would be better if we could just create this model based on the information that's available in many of the breaches that we work. So we took that a step further and we said, okay, well, how would we do this? And we're going to need a big database, and we're going to need if we're going to put it in the Oculus, we need to have the right engine, and we spent years trying to figure out how we would do it. By 2015, we had a prototype that we unveiled, and also a patent application that we submitted in August of 2015. The day after which, at Black Hat, we unveiled Viewpoint prototype to the world, and it got some strange looks because people are like, well, okay, how's this supposed to work? But the way it works is it basically visualizes every actor and every event in the cyberspace that you can actually, that we have data for. So, for example, if we have data from our clients in a breach response, or if we have data from our clients that are using our MDR service, log data, flow records, IDS alerts, endpoint alerts, threat intelligence data, the list goes on and on. But if you have all that data, then you can correlate that data in a visual manner. And that's basically what Viewpoint is. It's a visual sim, which allows you to see things. By the way, it's a standard model now instead of the one that's between everybody's ears who are reading this data in a traditional sense. But if you can see this data, and I can see the same model that you're looking at, then all of a sudden we can discuss cybersecurity in a standard manner, and we can get to a resolution a lot faster. So what our analysts are able to do today, for example, with Viewpoint in our MDR solution, is carve off a lot of time that would be traditionally used, literally switching between windows, whether that's browser user interfaces for cybersecurity tools and search tools and ticketing tools and all this other stuff. We can simply see it all at the same time, carve the stuff that actually matters to the investigation that we're doing, and then export that as a ticket that needs action.